Lately, I've been feeling apathetic and tired. I just don't feel like doing anything and end up doing the bare minimum. What used to bring me pleasure has become uninteresting. Understanding that I can't linger in this state for too long, I started searching for ways to resurrect my motivation. I came across a really interesting podcast that explained the reasons behind low motivation and drive. The podcast genuinely helped, if only because it sparked my desire to create this video for you. So, let's start with the fact that motivation doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's regulated by a neurotransmitter produced in the brain and serves as an element of the reward system. This substance is called dopamine. It propels a person towards achieving goals. Without dopamine, you'd probably just lie like a log in bed. Essentially, it helps the body survive and function. Much like some toys work with a battery, humans work with dopamine. The mechanism of dopamine is quite intriguing. It has a baseline and peak level. For instance, the baseline is 2, and the peak is 4. Have a taste of delicious chocolate or smoke a cigarette, and the dopamine level immediately jumps to 4. After a short period, it decreases, and here's the most interesting part. After the spike, the dopamine level doesn't return to the baseline. It drops below 2. The higher the spike, the lower the fall. I think you understand what I mean. You've probably experienced it yourself. This happens after achieving a significant goal, like finishing school or landing your dream job. Initially, you feel great, but after some time, you sense emptiness, sadness, or even fall into depression. This is precisely the dopamine jump. To reiterate, there's a baseline level of dopamine and its peak. Let's say you discover a new video game and experience a massive dopamine spike. Along with the peak, the baseline dopamine level decreases, meaning it doesn't return to the initial value but drops even lower. You feel boredom and fatigue and try to reach the same level of pleasure you had the first time. You play again and again, but don't get the same drive. In doing so, you lower the baseline dopamine. This is how a dependency on pleasure develops. A person loses the ability to truly enjoy life. They become demotivated and powerless. This could be a cause for developing depression or an anxiety disorder. These spikes exhaust the body, leaving it in a broken state. By providing more and more dopamine fuel, the battery just stops charging. The more dopamine, the stronger the depletion. This applies not only to video games, but to any activity that stimulates dopamine release. Food, social media, cigarettes, sweets, sports, and so on. All of these can hook you on the dopamine needle. The more frequently you engage in an activity, the less satisfaction, motivation, and drive you experience. The dopamine battery is universal for all activities. To maintain dopamine at a normal level, you need to regulate its stimulators. Let's see how to do this. But first, let's understand why dopamine functions this way. There's an evolutionary reason behind it. Imagine living 10,000 years ago. You wake up and there's no food or water in the cave. You have to go on a hunt for sustenance. And outside there are so many dangers: predators, poisonous animals and plants, cold, and bad weather. There's no room for slacking off because you need to feed your family. Dopamine comes to the rescue. It motivates you to face danger. Over time, you return with a catch. Hooray, you've avoided a hungry death. What a beautiful reward occurs. A dopamine release. You feel satisfaction, and then the dopamine level drops. If it always remained at the peak, you would never feel motivated again to go on a food hunt. So, from an evolutionary perspective, this neurotransmitter helps humans survive. But today, we don't need to go hunting. We can order almost any product with just one click. How do we maintain a stable dopamine level in the modern world and not lose motivation? Let's look at the example of sports. Physical exercises always trigger a dopamine spike. It's individual for everyone. But let's take an average scenario. You are neutral about workouts. Yes, sweating and groaning in the gym are not very pleasant, but it's good for your health. Plus, shedding a couple of pounds wouldn't hurt. You've tried going to the gym, but always lost interest and abandoned workouts. So you bought memberships, started going to the gym again. To make it less boring, you bring your phone and listen to music during sessions. You also convinced your friend to go with you to support and motivate each other. Before exercising, you have energy drinks for an energy boost. You think about the upcoming session and how good you'll look and feel fantastic. All you need to do is keep up with the workouts. So, you motivate yourself. Yes, I need to put in the effort now to enjoy the results in the future. It's going to be so cool. And now, if I work out properly, I'll treat myself to a huge milkshake. So, what do we have here? Going to the gym isn't exactly your favorite thing. To endure this discomfort, you add various pleasures. Energy drinks, music, friends. You focus on the end goal, trying to motivate yourself. Sounds good, but it's a flawed strategy. Firstly, by using external stimuli, you can only perform actions when all motivators are in place. Friends, drinks, music. Pleasure will only be achieved under specific conditions. Remove one stimulus, and motivation sharply decreases. If your friend can't make it to the workout, there's a high chance you won't go either. What you consider motivation is simultaneously an obstacle. To avoid this, you need to stop chasing pleasure exclusively. Workouts don't necessarily have to be enjoyable. Ideally, you need an interval dopamine release. Some days workouts bring pleasure, others not so much. Pleasure shouldn't become the ultimate goal. You can engage in sports every day. Just make sure you don't experience dopamine excess. It's essential to introduce some variety. Sometimes you listen to music during workouts, sometimes not. Sometimes you hit the gym in the morning as you like, and sometimes during the day, even if you don't like it. Today, buy an energy drink. Tomorrow, skip it. If you want to maintain motivation for studying, sports, work, relationships, the key is to ensure that dopamine levels don't rise too often. Oh, and something about workouts. Don't dream of a beautiful and toned body, fitting into smaller jeans, or indulging in dessert. What's wrong with that, you ask? Scientists at Stanford University conducted an interesting experiment with preschoolers who enjoyed drawing. For each drawing, researchers gave children a reward, a gold star or another cute sticker. Then the reward stopped, and they found that now kids had no inclination to draw on their own because there was no reward. Before that, kids enjoyed drawing regardless of whether they received encouragement or not. Children drew because they wanted to. But then the action took a back seat. Now the main goal was to receive a reward. In this behavior, adults are no different from children. When you reward yourself for something, the brain associates pleasure specifically with the reward, not the process. It thinks you just need to endure the unpleasant to get the reward. Thus, dopamine is only engaged during encouragement. You can reprogram your brain and build new neural connections, convincing yourself each time that pleasure lies in the effort, not the result. Yes, the path can be challenging, but the most crucial thing in achieving a goal is the journey. This attitude will stimulate dopamine production in response to the applied effort. Another advantage of dopamine is that it's relatively easy to control with the power of thought. In essence, here's the deal. To maintain motivation, avoid dopamine swings, don't dwell on a pleasant reward, and don't reward yourself after completing tasks. This ensures a normal dopamine production. If you want to lose weight, don't hang pictures of slim and fit people on the fridge. Don't think about how you'll fit into clothes that are currently too small. Don't overly motivate yourself. Let the process itself become enjoyable. A good example is intermittent fasting. Some people do a 12-hour break between meals every day, while others fast for several days in a row. The feeling of hunger stimulates dopamine production, making food seem even tastier than the reward for fasting. But over time, people start to enjoy the process on an empty stomach and think better and more energy. Obtaining the reward takes a back seat. It's the weight loss journey that becomes enjoyable. Dopamine is produced during fasting, not after. The path to achieving the goal is the reward. Now, let's sum up this episode. 1. Dopamine is an internal universal battery. It's one for all activities, and your goal is to learn how to use it wisely. Avoid empty activities that develop dopamine dependency. It depletes your battery. If you want to feel better and have already started eating right and moving more, but still scroll through social media and overwork in the evenings, forget about improving your well-being. 2. Dopamine has a baseline and peak level. The higher the surge, the lower the drop. Stimulating dopamine activity creates dependency. You want to experience the same pleasure as the first time. You put in more effort, but end up in a dopamine pit. Exhaustion can be so severe that even getting out of bed seems like an insurmountable task. 3. Pleasure in the process. Avoid dopamine swings. Don't fantasize about the reward. Don't reward yourself afterward. You're not a dog. Learn to enjoy the process itself. This ensures normal dopamine production. That's all for today. Like the video. Give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching.